Here we're going to talk about simple interest, and the formula associated with these problems is I equals PRT. And this is on the formula sheet, so you don't need to memorize the formula, but you do need to understand it, and I'm going to show you a couple of things just to make sure that you don't get tricked by some of the things that you might see on the test. So I equals PRT, and what that means is interest equals P is principal times rate is R times T is time. So principal times rate times time. So interest is the amount of money that you make or the extra money you have to pay if you're taking a loan out. Principal is the amount that you are going to invest or borrow, for example. Rate is usually a percentage, and it's usually, in the problems you'll see in on the GED, is the annual rate. Time, since this is an annual rate, time needs to be in years. And you'll see where this is going to come into play because they'll especially try to trick you regarding the time component of this formula. And also remember that the rate has to be a decimal number, not a percentage. So some of the problems that you'll see, and you probably know this in real life, interest, if you borrow money, let's say you take out a car loan, you know that when you pay that loan back, you're actually paying more than the amount that you actually borrowed because you're paying interest. Similarly, if you invest money and it's making interest, let's say even if you just put it in a checking account or a saving account and you're getting interest, then you're actually getting more money than you've put in because of the interest. So I'm going to pause and put an example problem on the board. So here's an example problem. You get $500 for your birthday. You put it in a savings account that earns 2.7% annual interest. How much will you earn in 18 months? So when you see this is about interest and how much interest you're going to earn, you immediately want to go to the formula. So I equals PRT. All you're going to do is plug the numbers that you know into this formula. So we're trying to figure out how much interest you'll earn. So I equals P is principal. Remember, that's the amount that you are either investing or borrowing. While you're essentially investing $500. R is rate, and so your rate is 2.7% annually. So, but don't stick 2.7 in here because this is a percentage. You need to change this to a decimal. If you don't know how to do that, you need to watch the video on percentages. So I won't go through it here, watch the video, but 2.7%, you're going to take the decimal point, you're going to move it over to the left 2 spots, so you're going to add a 0. So 2.7% is 0.027. So that's the number you put in here, not the percentage. This is a key point where you could get caught on this. Don't put 2.7, change it to a decimal. Because remember, you cannot multiply percentages. You have to change them to real numbers. So your rate, 0.027 times time. Now remember, this is an annual rate, so your time has to be in years. This is where they're most often going to get people. They give you 18 months. And so a lot of people are just going to put 18 in here. But don't do that. This is given in months, but you need to put it into years. So how many months or how many years is 18 months? So if you don't know how to figure that out, you basically divide it by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So 18 divided by 12, you put that in your calculator, you get 1.5. So interest, how much are you going to earn? Interest equals 500 times 0.027 times 1.5. You put that into your calculator. and you're going to get 20.25. So $20.25. That's how much interest you're going to earn in 18 months. Make sure you read the question, because this says how much will you earn in 18 months. If it said how much money will you have, then you need to add on the 500. So how much money will you have? Well, you have the 500 you started with, plus you've earned $20.25. So the answer to that question would be 520.25. So make sure you read the question. If it's asking you how much interest, then you just do this. But if it's asking you something about how much will you have in total or something of that nature, you need to add back on the original amount. I'm going to pause and we're going to do one more question. Here's another question. You borrow $3,000 for a 24-month period, and at the end you paid $90 in interest. What was the annual interest rate? So this is a little bit still the same formula. When you see the word interest, you should think about this formula, but it's a little bit different than the problem we just did. But again, we're just going to plug in what we know and then solve for what we don't know. So we borrowed $3,000. So our principal was $3,000 for 24 months. So our time is 24 months. Remember, it has to be in years. Don't write down 24. So how many years is 24 months? 24 divided by 12 is 2. At the end, you paid $90 in interest. So your interest, 90, equals 3,000, which is your principal, times your rate. They're asking us what the rate is. So we don't know what that is, so we leave that as R. That's our unknown. Times time. Time is 2, because remember it has to be in years. So we've just taken what we know and we've plugged it into this formula. So this is the same formula, we've just plugged in the numbers that we know. So now we need to solve for R. So this is an algebra problem. So we're going to try to get R on one side and then numbers on the other side. First thing we're going to do is, by the commutative property, we can multiply 3,000 times 2. So we have 90 equals 3,000 times 2 is 6,000 times R. So we just multiplied the two numbers together and kept the R. When you write two things together with a variable, that means multiplication. So 90 equals 6,000 times R. We're trying to solve for R. That's what we're trying to figure out. So we need to get R by itself on one side of this equal sign. So we need to get rid of this 6,000. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to divide by 6,000, and then that we'd only be left with R. So if we divide this side by 6,000, we have to divide this side by 6,000. So we're going to go 90 divided by 6,000 equals 6,000 divided by 6,000 times R. So I'm just trying to get R by itself, so I'm going to divide by 6,000. 6,000 divided by 6,000 is 1, so that essentially goes away. So we're left with 90 divided by 6,000 is what our rate is. So now you just plug this in your calculator. Remember, fractions are just divisions. Numerator divided by denominator. So 90 divided by 6,000. Put that into your calculator. I'm going to come over here. So 90 divided by 6,000 is 0.015. So that's what R is. So that is the rate. If your answers are in percentage form, then this is not the percentage, right? This is the real number. So you need to look and see what what your answers are, because if they give you the percentage, you have to change this into a percentage. Again, watch that video if you don't know how to do this, but we basically take the decimal point and we move it over 2. So 1.5%. That is our rate percentage. I don't want to say it's R because R is always written as a real number, not as a percentage. So make sure you are looking for whether this is written as a real number or as a percentage if in your multiple choice answers. So again, know what the formula is, know what these mean, know that the rate is not a percentage. If they give you a percentage, you have to change that into a real number. And time, because this is almost always given as an annual rate on the test, time has to be in years. So if they give you months, change it to years.